Welcome to episode number 236 of the Marine Layer podcast. It's our mailbag episode. We'll open up the mailbag and answer your guys' best questions. The Mariners have won their 7th series in a row now. We also have some more injury issues to talk about with Dylan Moore and Luke Raley going on the IL.
Your guys' reminder before we start the podcast, make sure you're staying on top of everything. If you want to do that, make sure to go over to our website, marinelayerpod.com. Check out everything, audio episodes, video episodes. If you want to subscribe to our Patreon and go join over there, we'd love to have you. That's over at our website. You can go get your merch all over at our website. All that's over at marinelayerpod.com. Stay on top of that and follow us everywhere on social media at marinelayerpod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. 1-1 from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game is 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network. Recording on Thursday evening, May 1st. Does 7 sound good to you? Is 7 a good number?
It's almost like it's better than 6.
It is. What about 8?
Are we going to hear 8 on Sunday?
Yeah, we could. I think there's a decent chance we hear 8. Did you see my reply to Brock?
Yeah, but tell the people.
Okay, so Brock posted a photo with, God, who did he post it with? How am I blanking on this?
Do you want me to tell you?
Yes,
or are you going to remember?
Who did he post with?
It was with DJ Khaled.
Gotcha. So Brock Heward on Sunday tweets out a photo with him and DJ Khaled and says the Mariners win another one. So I responded to Brock and I said, if the Mariners win 8 in a row, you need to get a picture with Pitbull. I thought that was funny. I thought we'd get a reaction out of Brock, but he might have not seen my tweet, unfortunately. But I think other people liked it. I know you would have given a voice of support, and I think Ryan Divish would have gotten a voice of support too.
That's really a storyline we haven't talked about enough. The Mariners have just started winning and winning and winning since Ryan Divish took his sabbatical off the beat.
They got swept the first series and have not lost a series since.
I mean, you can say it's all Divish's fault.
Maybe some people are saying he shouldn't come back.
We're not saying that.
We're not saying that. What if they get to August, whenever he comes back, whenever the date is, I don't know the exact date, whenever he does come back, and they haven't lost a series since then?
Well, then that's the day the season crumbles, isn't it?
And then we'll have the People's Beat reporter to report on the greatest collapse in baseball history. Team does not lose a series throughout the entire summer. Loses out to finish the season.
What's hilarious is we'll all joke about it, but you know there will actually be people that start adding Divish on Twitter saying this is all his fault, and he's going to get furious about it.
You jinxed it. You jinxed it. You jinxed it. You jinxed it. He did jinx it.
He just
How much do we think he pays attention?
Oh, he's paying attention.
I think he is too, and I will note this because I know our listeners know, like, we have somewhat of a relationship with Ryan Divish, but we honestly have no idea. Have not talked to him since he got back to Montana. So honestly, I would have no inside information. I do feel like he does check his mentions. I feel like he's there looking and knows that, you know, there are a few people a day that will at him and say something.
He's not on Twitter all the time these days, I'd say, but there's no way he's not peeking.
He's definitely looking. Yeah. And I'm sure Jude keeps him in the loop, and Tim Booth and all the columnists like Matt Calkins, friend of the pod. Like, I'm sure all of those guys are keeping him in the loop too. But yeah, he's probably not thinking about that. He's probably thinking about what his strategy is for the next time he yells at an umpire. What should I insult?
There's no way he goes the whole season without getting thrown out of a game. There's just no way.
I think the over-under is like 3.5.
Yeah, that sounds...
How many games do they play?
I don't know, 40 maybe?
Yeah, 3.5. That's about 1 every 10 games if you hit the over.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Some people might say 2, but I'd believe 4. I think it'd be good. He does need to blow off steam somehow. So, coaching's pretty stressful. So I'd say he could shoot for 4. I think that would be a really fun number to get to. Do you know what else was really fun, Lyle? So we record on Monday for Wednesday's episode, and we spent a little bit of time talking about Jorge Polanco and his home run happy weekend and his American League Player of the Week, and we just think, what could happen on Tuesday's game? What could really happen on that Tuesday game? Well, Jorge Polanco then took it up another level and turned into Barry Bonds. We joked on the Wednesday episode. I don't think we've played that clip enough for the Barry Bonds Satchel Paige clip for Jorge Polanco. Only to tweet it out twice in that game because he hit his 2 home runs. Shout out to Jorge Polanco, man.
If you're ranking MVP candidates right now in the American League, is he not second behind Aaron Judge?
Yeah, he's second. I don't know how you would do it. I don't know how you would argue against that. Yeah, he doesn't play in the field, and he only hits against righties. It's worked pretty well.
I gotta say, thank goodness he re-signed, and he re-signed in Seattle, because do you remember how deep those talks got with him in Houston? Could you even imagine the discourse right now and the shape of the AL West had he signed with the Astros and he's doing this in Houston? Could you imagine not only what the standings look like, but what the narrative around the fan base would be right now? If he had finished last year with his sub 700 OPS, he goes to Houston and he looks like an MVP.
I wish I had a good answer for you, but the only logical thing I could come to is that there would be an immense outrage. And think of what the windfall that would happen right now, because then you look at the Mariners roster with all of its current injuries, who would be DHing?
Probably Garver.
Yeah, you think people would be excited about that?
Well, this is a reasonable fan base. Sure.
Seeing Mitch Garver get his DH opportunities back because there are no other options. Because it would be him or, you could put Ryland Thomas at DH.
Yeah, maybe that's a good segue, because that's who came up now in the absence of Luke Raley, who's going to be out minimum 6 weeks. That was a tough blow. So
he's BP too.
They showed the footage on the Root broadcast. I don't know how many people saw it. I guess they showed it during the game, so people probably saw it. That did not look pretty, I got to tell you. He takes one pretty hard swing, and all of a sudden he's immediately grabbing at his side, and he's got to immediately walk off the field and go down to the trainer's room. Like, you could just tell when he got that swing off that did not look good. It really didn't. And I'm not shocked to hear the news from Justin Hollander on Thursday, or rather on Wednesday, that that's the result. Because, again, it didn't look like some minor thing.
It's 6 weeks, I think, before he can even start thinking about coming back. Because he's got to the thing about obliques, as they were describing, is you need to, totally rest it. You can't, work your way back slowly. You can't really play through it. It is something that you need to be really delicate about, and especially for a guy like Raley who's going to use it to swing a lot. That's where it affects guys the most. I'm worried that even when he's healthy and he comes back, that the oblique is still going to be bugging him at some point throughout the season, and it's going to hamper his offensive ability. On top of the fact he's already going to miss roughly 2 months to come back from that injury. That's an injury the Mariners really couldn't suffer. They could suffer one injury in the outfield because they had 4 essentially full-time outfielders that they started the season with: Randy, Julio, Robles, and Raley, even though Raley was at first base. 4 essentially full-time outfielders that you had on your roster. Now you have 2 full-time outfielders, on big league outfielders, I'll say, on your roster. Samad Taylor's up now too. I think he's going to get the majority of the reps in right field. He's hit really well in Tacoma, that we've talked about on past Mailbag episodes, and he can play all over the field. He's got some pretty decent tools, but he's not Luke Raley, unfortunately. The Mariners put Miles Mastrobuoni in right field on Tuesday, and I don't think that's going to be the last time we see him or someone else of his caliber out there in right field, if it be a Ryland Thomas or it be someone else. That's a huge drop-off. Right field is supposed to be an anchor position for your lineup and for your defense, and it's worse than having Mitch out there right now. Speaking of Mitch,
somebody who's somebody who has also suffered an oblique injury. I was curious what he did when he came back from that oblique injury. Remember when he got it in 2017? He dove back into the bag at first base, I believe in Detroit, and he had to miss nearly 2 months with that oblique. Mm-hmm. Remember all that?
Yeah.
So I pull up his numbers because he was red hot to start that year in 17. He was hitting 342 with a 1054 OPS in the month of April. He comes back from that oblique. In June of that year in 17, he hits 231, 2 homers, 721 OPS. In July, he hits 177, 512 OPS. August, he hits 211, 724 OPS. And then he had a really hot month of September. So not every injury is the same. Not every oblique injury is even the same. But if you need some type of comparison, that says even when Mitch Haniger got back, it took him a long while to get his feet back under him.
At least with the Dylan Moore injury, it sounds like it's going to be a 10-day minimum, and he's going to be fully ramped up, ready to go by the time he gets off the injured list. That's great. So are we putting Dylan Moore back full-time in right field? It feels like the best option.
At this point, it feels like you have to, but as we know, when Dylan Moore plays too much, he gets exposed. I'm not saying they have a better solution right now, but he may be your best right fielder.
As you said, you could say the same thing for Leo Rivas. You could say it for Mastroboni. I mean, it could get to the point where you say that with Ben Williamson if he gets a lot of at-bats and people and pitchers adjust to him and his hitting style. It's going to be a common theme once you start digging into the depth of this roster, and that's really unfortunate for the Mariners, who have continued, even despite these injuries in the series, to mash the baseball. I mean, look at these stats Buster Olney tweeted out. Despite all these injuries, the Mariners, since August 1st of last year, among the American League teams are second in runs, second in home runs, second in steals, second in walk rate, and second in WRC plus. Despite all that, they're continue to master baseball. I mean, they put up 9 runs on Wednesday. We'll see how long it can last, because they cannot take another injury in this lineup. There is not enough depth there to make it through months and months of a Major League Baseball season and continue to see sort of this level of offensive production, in my opinion.
Is there anything they could do solution-wise? Could they go acquire somebody?
In July.
You don't think there's any way they could make any trade right now for anybody?
No. You'd have to trade with a team that doesn't realize the trade deadline and all the leverage is in July, like the Marlins last year with Luis Ariz. I have no idea what the Marlins did when they traded Luis Ariz, because they would have gotten twice the package back if they just waited until the deadline to trade off someone they didn't need on a losing team. So that's why teams don't trade now, because you don't have any leverage. You know what leverage you have in July? Oh, the deadline's in a few hours. Make us the deal we want, or you don't get them. That's literally the leverage for someone who could actually come in and impact the Mariners lineup. Like right now, teams don't even want to trade position players when the trade market's the best at the deadline.
You could trade back for Jared Kelenic.
Oh, now that's not going to help the lineup, but it will definitely help the content. So I approve.
What if he finally has his resurgence this time?
Finally, after this, it would be 3 times with the Mariners. Braves was 4, so this would be 5th time.
Yes.
I count that? Yeah, I counted that right. I'm down. If he wants to turn back into the top prospect he was at age 25 in a second stint with the team that brought him up, sure. That'd be really fun. Give us a lot to talk about. Make you happy.
Do the Mariners even get to the point where, speaking of bringing old friends back, they give Mitch another contract and ask him to play for a league minimum and come back?
Nope. Samad Taylor is better than Mitch Haniger right now.
Probably. I was just throwing ideas out there. Could they go after somebody like, I think Michael A. Taylor's still a free agent?
If guys are free agents right now, they are a free agent for a reason.
I know, but you need more bodies in the outfield right now.
I doubt these players are better than what they currently have. Like, you need someone to go out there and not be a negative WAR player. That's what we would call a success right now. Michael A. Taylor could probably be a negative WAR player. Mitch is definitely in the outfield a negative WAR player right now. I'd say you just roll. You got to roll with what you got, because that's just kind of how this point of the Major League season is. If somehow someone DFAs a Victor Robles again and you luck into that, great. But at this moment, it doesn't seem like that's available.
Sorry, Michael A. Taylor's with the White Sox. He's not a free agent, but
okay,
yeah,
you would need a Victor Robles situation to sort of save yourself like last year, and that opportunity could present itself. The time's coming up where a month into the season, teams could be sick of what they're seeing from someone who made their opening day roster. But that's going to be contingent on someone else essentially, cutting a player. And that's something the Mariners have no control over right now. What they do have control over is the guys in their organization who they can put out there in right field, and just hopefully they're fine. Hopefully they're fine. Cade Marlowe, Samad Taylor.
Cade Marlowe's on the 60-day injured list.
Oh, never mind.
He's not going to play for a while.
So it's going to be Samad. Samad needs to stay healthy.
And at some point, Canzone may come back up.
Not great timing for this lineup. Well, they will hopefully keep hitting, but it is not the depth of this lineup is thinning out really, really, really quick. So we'll see. And they've shown, at least on Wednesday, they could score runs with the backup players. They managed to put the pressure on the Angels in the seventh inning on Wednesday, where they go infield single, bunt single, passed ball, soft opposite field single from J.P. Crawford at the bottom of the lineup. With none of the guys, J.P. presents an offensive threat, but the guys in front of him don't really present much of a major league offensive threat, and they still manage to kick off an inning and score a bunch of runs anyway. So it's possible, but that also relies on the Angels continuing to mess up. So we'll see. This is going to be something they're going to have to really work around as the season goes along. A lot of reliance on Dan, on Kevin Seitzer getting the most out of the players they have on the roster, because the major league talent is waning.
Mm-hmm. But in all that being said, they're still hitting.
Yeah, somehow they continue to do it. We're a month in, and they're a really, really, really good hitting team. I hope we can say the same thing 4 months from now. I hope you and I will sit here on this podcast August 1st, if we're recording on that day, and say that this is a really good hitting baseball club.
I will say, though, all the injuries aside, it's really only affected two positions. There's been a lot of injuries, but they've all been in right field and second base. So if you want a glass half full thing, you're not having to fill a flurry of positions. You are having to find a lot of depth, but it's not across the field. It's all been at second base and right field.
Third base, too. Because your opening day third baseman is now your DH.
I'm not so sure how long Polanco would have lasted out in the field anyway. To be honest, is he not better off just DHing? Would he be hitting this ball in the field?
He is way better off at third base, but they did also tell us that Jorge Polanco is the starting third baseman.
You mean he's better off at DH?
He is better off at DH, yes. But the Mariners told us going into the season that Jorge Polanco was their starting third baseman, and they prepped their roster as if he was the starting third baseman.
Yeah. I'm still not sure how long that would have ended up lasting.
Exactly, and perhaps that was a massive oversight on their part, not fully grasping where his knee was at and how he was defensively. But the plan, I don't think, was for Ben Williamson to be up instantly to take over third base full time. Right. I don't think that was the plan. Mm-hmm. It works out that he's a really good defender at third base, and he's hit really well to start. But I think they wanted to get at least something out of Polanco.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I don't think they saw him hitting like this, right? And if he hits a little bit more like he did last year as a DH, that's not very valuable.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're about to get to the mailbag here in just a minute. Before that, let's take a pause. We're going to talk to you guys about our friends over at Pagacci's Pub 85. That's over in Kirkland. You guys know, if you want to plan an evening with your friends, whether you want to go get some good food, watch some games, you want to play some pool or some darts, it's a good spot to just hang out. It's a really cool, friendly neighborhood bar over in Kirkland. Yeah, it's a great time. I've been a bunch. You can plan time with your friends. If you go during happy hour, $3 and $4 drinks. 2 to 6 p.m. happy hours, Monday through Friday. Again, $3 and $4 drinks. All of that over at Pagacci's Pub 85 in Kirkland.
Let's get to our first mailbag question. This mailbag question comes from Scott on Patreon. Scott, thanks for sending it in. And a reminder to all the listeners, if you want mailbag priority, the best place to go to get mailbag priority is to sign up for our Patreon. Sign up for our Patreon, you're at the top of the list when it comes to mailbag questions every week. So if you have stuff you want to ask us, that's the best place to do it. Patreon.com/MarineLayerPod. The question from Scott is, who'd you target as starting pitching depth? Scott throws out Spencer Turnbull, a trade, a DFA, someone who gets DFA'd, for example, Kenta Maeda on Thursday today, right before we hit record, got DFA'd today. Who would make sense, Lyle?
I have heard the Spencer Turnbull name thrown out a few times, and I get it because in a short sample last year, he was really good. And he can throw a pretty good breaking ball. Like the run value on his breaking ball last year was really high. Why he's still out there, I'm not sure. Maybe people have concerns about his durability. I would also say that the fact the Mariners have not signed a veteran starting pitcher yet probably tells you what the organizational vision is. And that's, they don't feel like they need it. They're fine with using the guys they have and the guys currently in their rotation and the guys in their farm system.
I'm with you, and in terms of, I don't think the Mariners need starting pitching depth, but that's not the question. So let me answer Scott's. If they were to go acquire depth in the starting pitching, in the starting rotation, Turnbull, in theory, makes sense. But despite him pitching really well for the Phillies last year, they didn't offer him a contract. This guy's dealt with injuries year over year over year over year. He's only thrown over 100 innings once, and this was, pre-pandemic was the last time he threw over 100 innings in a season as a starter. It's not the most reliable thing in the world. And when a team doesn't offer you a contract because you can't stay healthy, that's pretty tough. The other name that Scott mentioned was Tristan McKenzie. Tristan McKenzie a couple of years ago would have been a great target to fill a rotation. Tristan McKenzie just accepted his outright from the Guardians to AAA. And I'm looking at, but he was terrible this year in the ERA over 10. As a bullpen arm for the Guardians, his fastball velocity as a starter is 91 miles an hour on average. It's one of the worst pitches in baseball by run value. I look at his Savant page and I look at his stats. I could not do Tristan McKenzie. I legitimately think he's cooked as a starter. I have seen nothing from Tristan McKenzie that offers some value for him. So I would say no on him. There's a couple other names too. Tyler Anderson, who the Mariners just saw. I'd imagine he'll be available at the deadline. Eric Fetty as well with the Cardinals.
If they have long-term rotation issues, then maybe they'd target an arm like that. But it's hard to imagine they're using their resources at the deadline for starting pitching because they're going to need offense, and they may even need bullpen help. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. And we have another starting pitching one too that we'll get to in a second. But just to put it in perspective for people, if the Mariners get to the point where they need to trade for a starting pitcher, based on what they currently believe, if they also need to add a big league starting pitcher, there's like a couple things that needs to happen. They either need to not believe in Emerson Hancock or Logan Evans, or either of them, both of them. They don't believe in either of them, and they need someone to fill that rotation spot. Or the Mariners need to get up to 3 injuries in that rotation. They're at 1 right now. They need 3 IL stints. That would not be great. I'm not counting George Kirby because I'm anticipating him back in the near future at this point. But that's where the Mariners would need to be if they were to have to trade for a starting pitcher. Because even if they get someone else on the injured list, they have Emerson Hancock, who threw a quality start on Wednesday. Shout out Emerson, our guy. And then Logan, who dealt in his major league debut on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of the situation the Mariners are in.
Yeah, they've had 3 good starts in a row out of Emerson Hancock. It's been really cool. And his velo's up too, like we've talked about a little bit. This is not, look, I'm not saying he's the exact same guy right now that he was and was projected to be when he was drafted out of Georgia or anything like that, but velo's up. He's missing some more bats. Like, you're seeing some growth out of Emerson Hancock, a guy who's still only 25 years old. Still so early into his career.
Most of the damage done to him on Wednesday was a lot of dinking and dunking. It wasn't a ton of hard contact, which is good.
And let me just say this in terms of some free agent names, too. You mentioned that you think Tristan McKenzie's cooked, which is fair. I think the exact same thing about Kenta Maeda. I would not be interested in him at all. He had over a 6 ERA last year. He doesn't really have any value to his pitches anymore. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. He was pitching out of the bullpen this year, by the way.
Yeah. So he's not even a starter.
Right. Yeah.
And we're not signing any of these guys to be relievers.
No.
I'd rather trade for Ryan Helsley. That would be a lot better.
Oh, you can sign me up for that. All right. Second question, this is from Xander. Like you said, also on Patreon, he had a similar question about some starting pitching depth. He said, I am preparing for the worst case scenario for Logan Gilbert. If that happens, could they trade for Andrew Heaney, who's currently with the Pirates and through a few starts has a 2.50 ERA?
I really like the idea of trading for Andrew Heaney. This is someone I would trade for. He's not going to blow you away, but he can pitch. He's mixed it up in his career. He's done some out of the bullpen. He's done some in the starting rotation. He was on the Rangers World Series team in 2023, and he pitched decently well in that. And he's been pretty durable. He's made over almost 59 starts in the last 2 years. So, he's going to go out there and pitch. The fastball's okay. The slider's a little bit better. He's productive, which is the most important thing. But the only way, again, you trade for someone like this is if someone's hurt or you don't believe in Emerson Hancock and Logan Evans. Because if you trade for Andrew Heaney, who's making $5 million this year, he's going in the starting rotation and he's starting the rest of the season. You're not taking him out.
And that's why it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because if it's just going to be a couple more weeks with Kirby and if it's going to be a month or so with Logan Gilbert, then eventually in time, you are going to get your rotation back. And by the way, as we have continued to talk about, Logan Evans and Emerson Hancock, through some limited samples, looked really solid, looked really good. So I don't really see this one happening. Again, going back to the fact that if the Mariners are going to use resources to make a trade, it would probably be for offense. I think you would really have to see another starter go down for a significant amount of time, like you mentioned, before they actually start to consider this. Because right now, I don't know who the next starter in the farm system would be to come up for a long period of time. It would probably be Jonathan Diaz, and I would guess that is where the Mariners would get to the point and say, all right, we got to look externally a little bit.
And the prospect Xander threw out there to trade for an Andrew Heaney, it's just not going to cost a ton to get a starter on a 1-year contract. Xander said Jared Sundstrom. It could be anyone probably ranked from 20 to 30 in the Mariners organization. They send one prospect away and get half a season, 2 months of Andrew Heaney back and worry about it there. But I don't think the Mariners are going to do this. But I appreciate the question, Xander. This would be a target that I think a lot of teams in baseball are going to look at for starting pitching as they get down the stretch and these injuries pile up and teams need rotation arms. And this is given that Andrew Heaney stays healthy, by the way. He stayed relatively healthy for his career, but this will be something to keep track of as the season progresses on. Let's get to our next mailbag question.
Let me add one more quick thing.
Sure.
We may see Jared Sundstrom this year. Yet another reason why the Mariners may not be inclined to make this trade if this is the hypothetical package. I'm not saying it's an unreasonable package, but when you need outfield bats, and Jared Sundstrom, who, by the way, I think has a little more prospect juice than the general public probably knows right now. I'm not saying he's going to be Johnny Farmello, who we'll talk about later, or anything like that. But he's off to a really nice start in Double-A. He had a good spring training. He's currently rocking an 804 OPS. Now, he hasn't played that much time above A-ball, but he's nearing 25 years old. Or sorry, he's 24 years old, so he's a little bit on the older side as a prospect. And if he gets enough good at-bats under his belt in Arkansas, you may see him. Because you look at the options right now in the rest of the farm system, and I'm not sure anybody has a higher upside than Sundstrom. So I think the Mariners may opt to go with that option rather than trade him for Heaney.
And yeah, it could get to the point where they might want to see him instead of Ryland Thomas, for example.
Right.
And they make that decision.
Jared Sundstrom has currently played 20 games above A-ball, so it's not a lot. But as a 24-year-old prospect who's hitting, if it gets to 50 games or maybe gets to 40 games and they give him a couple weeks in AAA, don't be shocked.
Yeah. Give him a shot at that point. Once you get older, it's the same thing as Ben Williamson. Once you get to a certain age, the teams are like, all right, let's see what you got.
Yeah,
Otherwise, what's up?
Yeah, you are who you are.
Yeah, you are who you are at this point. Let's see it, or we're going to try someone else. Let's get to the next mailbag question. This comes from Matthew on Twitter, and Matthew asks, since both Brandon Williamson and Logan Evans were drafted in 2023 and have already made their Major League debuts, what would you guys choose as the best Mariners draft in the Jerry DiPoto, Scott Hunter era?
I think you mean Ben Williamson.
Did I say Brandon?
Yeah.
Damn. Ben Williamson, both B. Wills.
Yeah. Where does that draft class rank? So I think it's fair to say you can't put 2023 at the top. Yet, in 4 or 5 years, it may be far and away at the top. Because what consists of that 2023 draft class right now is ridiculous in terms of potential. Colt Emerson, Johnny Farmello, Ty Pete, the 3 first-rounders, Ben Williamson, who's already in the big leagues, Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins, who were used to trade for Randy Arozarena, Logan Evans, and Brandon Garcia. That's a ridiculous draft class when you look at that potential. That is crazy. But at the same time, none of those guys have prolonged big league experience yet. So it's just not there yet in terms of solidified status of top of the pedestal. It's just not, but it could get there.
It's the draft class that has the most prospect juice that I can remember, top to bottom. So we have our 2 finalists for this. Neither of these classes had as much prospect hype as the 2023 class did. You forgot Jared Sundstrom in that class too, Lyle, in that 2023 class. Yeah, it was pretty loaded. Definitely the most stacked prospect class they have had in terms of one singular draft. My answer to this question comes down to 2 options. You can do the 2021 draft where the Mariners drafted Bryce Miller in the 4th round, Brian Wu in the 6th round. They also drafted Harry Ford in the 1st round in that draft, and they drafted Edwin Arroyo in the 2nd round of that draft, who was a key piece of sending to the Cincinnati Reds for Luis Castillo. The second option is 2018, and I only need to say 2 names for that 2018 Mariners draft. It's Logan Gilbert in the 1st round, and it's Cal Raleigh in the 3rd round. When you have 2 stars like that in a draft class, it makes it a banger. So, Lyle, which one would you choose?
It's so close, but I went with 18 because you look around the rest of the league, there's not a better battery than Logan Gilbert and Cal Raleigh. You look at the other best catchers in baseball, who, by the way, I think all rank behind Cal at this point because I think Cal is the best catcher in the game. William Contreras doesn't have an ace in his rotation like that. Adley Rutschman doesn't have an ace in his rotation like that. It just doesn't exist. So when you look at the game's best catchers, I don't think you can find a better battery. You could argue Will Smith in one of those Dodgers arms, but I don't think it surpasses Cal and Logan. So when you get 2 guys like that, one who's now become a cornerstone of your franchise in Cal Raleigh with the extension, and one who's a top 10 to 15 pitcher in the sport in Logan Gilbert, yeah, that draft class is going at the top for me.
Great pitch. You almost sold me. You almost did. In terms of development, though, I think 2021 takes the cake for me. The Edwin Arroyo part of trade for Luis Castillo, I think, puts it over the top for me. I will wash out Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, Logan Gilbert, Cal Raleigh. What the Mariners did with Bryce Miller and Brian Wu in the 4th and 6th rounds, they might never do that again in their franchise history. Think about that. In terms of the quality of pitcher you get out of a 4th and a 6th round pick in the same draft class is absolutely insane. And what's to say Harry Ford could come up and be a quality big leaguer at some point whenever he figures it out in the minor leagues. It's pretty. Those are 2 pretty insane draft classes. I'm gonna have to go with 2021 though, because it's pretty good. It is that good, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good class.
Yeah.
It is hard to find starting pitching that good that late and develop it that well. So sure, perfectly good pitch. You can make an argument for either one. And actually, I'm curious to hear from you guys listening. If you had to pick between those 2 classes, do you go 2018 or 2021? There's no wrong answer. I'm just curious which side people are leaning.
Yeah, and hopefully, we could say another one of the classes in the future besides 2023 would be the best, because then we get to the point where, the Mariners are probably having a ton of success, because without those 2 draft classes, the 2018 and 2021 draft classes, Mariners are not where they are right now, and they view things a lot differently. The team is probably not as good as they are right now, and perhaps we'd be answering some different questions at this moment. Lyle, before you get to your next mailbag question, let's hear a word from Game Time. Now, let me check with you, Lyle, just making sure. We are going to the Blue Jays series next weekend.
Oh, we'll be there.
Oh, yeah, we'll be there. We'll see friend of the podcast, Johnny Junta, coming down from Canada. It's going to be a lot of fun. Mother's Day is that weekend. I hope the Mariners are still in first place at that point. That sounds like a pretty good pitch to go see a baseball game. If you guys want to come hang out with Lyle and I at the ballpark next weekend, I have a suggestion for you. Game Time. I have to keep an eye on tickets the next few days as well, just keeping track of myself because of Mother's Day. And my mom usually likes to go to the games on Sunday of Mother's Day. I'm going to be using the Game Time app because tickets get sent right to my phone in a simple and easy process. You guys can do the same exact thing. That's why Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Marine Layer podcast. They make getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. Let's check out the tickets for next weekend. You can get in for $13 on Friday, $22 on Saturday, and $22 on Sunday, right on the Game Time app. Save even more money with zone deals, where you choose the section and Game Time chooses the seats. Toggle the all-in pricing feature so there are no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code JustBaseball for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Okay, so Aiden on YouTube has a question about the hottest man on the planet right now, so let's dive into it. He says, do we think Jorge Polanco batting from one side is contributing to his success at the moment?
I think so, yeah. It helps players a lot when you only have one thing to focus on. And that's not to say when Jorge Polanco is taking batting practice or rehabbing his right-handed swing, he's not thinking about that. But in a game, it has gotten to the point where Jorge Polanco has one thing he needs to focus on. He doesn't need to focus on fielding. He doesn't need to focus on hitting lefties. All he needs to focus on is hitting righties. And I think that's an immense help. Now, if I want to take the other side of this and say, it's not the fact he's just swinging left-handed, Lyle. It's because he only has to face right-handed pitching with a platoon advantage. Hitting gets a lot easier when you only have to face your platoon advantage side from one side at that point. It's a complicated answer. Short answer, yes. Long answer, I'd say it's a little more complicated than that.
I guess we're lucky that if he had to have an injury to one of the knees, it's the one that he's dealing with right now, because you see a lot more righties in the game than lefties. He wouldn't be playing a lot if he was only facing lefties. So
yeah. And we saw his one at bat against a lefty.
Yeah. So let me say this. Jorge Polanco for his career is better as a left-handed hitter than a right-handed hitter. It's not by a crazy margin, but he is better from the left side. Do I think it's helped the start of his season? Sure. Because that idea of zoning in on one thing where you say, okay, I know I'm not going to play the field. I know I'm not going to start the year hitting righties. I am focused on this one thing. I'm focused on making some swing changes. Or rather focused on making some stance changes that's helped the knee feel a little bit better, helped tap into my power a little bit more. That's great. But I'm not going to sit here and say Jorge Polanco's a liability against left-handed pitching, because when he gets back and he starts facing both sides of the plate again, when he's at his best, he's had plenty of years where he hits righties really hard. You want to look back 2 years ago, the year before the trade, 824 OPS as a right-handed hitter. 2021, 803 OPS as a right-handed hitter. There's been years where he's been more down from that side. But like I've said in the past, at his best and when he's really clicking, Jorge Polanco can crush from both sides of the plate. Mm-hmm. So I would... This sounds like an obvious blanketed statement, but I think he will be best served when he gets back to hitting from both sides.
I agree, so he can play every single day.
Sure.
But, yeah, I wonder what we talked about this last episode. Are the mechanical changes going to be the same from his right side as his left? Because he did make mechanical changes. They were talking about it on MLB Tonight yesterday, on Wednesday, I believe, where, they talk about him closing up his stance. He's a little more, I think he is a little deeper in his stance as well, that it's really helped him out a lot. I wonder if it's going to be the same from the right side. I guess we're just going to have to see. Because I've not seen him hit right-handed I haven't seen him hit right-handed in a while.
Yeah. I think he's starting to get close, so that's a good sign. They haven't put an exact day on it yet, but he sounds like he's inching toward getting back to hitting from both sides, which would be great.
Let's get to our next question from T_Phil on Instagram, and the question is, why is Leo Rivas playing every other day? His on-base percentage is .500, and he's our best middle infielder.
Love Leo Rivas. Thrilled he's on the roster. Thrilled he's contributing. Thrilled that he's really helped anchor the bottom of the lineup a bit. But we've talked about this with Dylan Moore a lot, right? that when he plays too much, he gets overexposed and his value is not the same than when they're playing his strengths. It's one thing I worry about now with Dylan Moore probably taking on a bigger role when he gets back off the IL. Same idea with Leo Rivas. He has certain strengths. They've used them well. But if you're playing him like an everyday player, I feel like that's where you get yourself into some iffy territory, just in terms of getting the best out of Leo Rivas. He has only played 56 career games in the big leagues. I love what he does on defense. I love what he's doing at the bottom of the order. But I would be cautious to say that he should be playing all the time.
And you can throw him into the bucket with, so you said Dylan Moore, you could put Mastroboni in there. Ben Williamson could be in there, but I'll get to the differentiator here in a second. You could put eventually Samad Taylor in there if he regresses, perhaps. Like, he's hitting very well at AAA, but for his career, he's not a great big league hitter for his very small sample size. Any of those guys, right, if they're not big leaguers, if you spend too much time hitting, you're going to get exposed to that point. If you're not like a big league quality hitter, and let me preface this point, like, Rivas has had some very good at bats. In that seventh inning, he was seventh inning on Wednesday. He did a great job in helping, generate that inning, and he's been very fun so far this season when he's been up in the big leagues. But there is a limit to what Leo Rivas can do. You could look at his Savant page. You can look at his minor league numbers. He doesn't have insane exit velocities. He's not going to hit for an incredibly high average. His OPS over 3,000 minor league plate appearances in 10 seasons is 746 in the minor leagues. So that's like about, a maximum of what you would expect for Leo Rivas at the big league level. And that's fine if you're an elite defender. I think the Mariners believe Ben Williamson's an elite defender. Leo Rivas at the big league level has not graded out as an elite defender. In fact, he's graded out below average as a big league defender. So you play him in spurts, you let him use his speed. He's a switch hitter, so it allows you some more versatility. He's a little bit more stable than some of the other options you've had, especially in the middle infield the past couple of seasons. But he shouldn't be playing every day. Especially since J.P. Crawford's picked up the bat and started hitting, and you don't need anyone else to spell him at shortstop. Yeah.
I think that's about right. So again, in Leo Rivas' best role, he plays in samples and plays a nice role for the team. So, yeah. Which is totally fine. Not everybody is a bona fide everyday player, and that's okay, because guys play roles on the team. He's one of them. Okay, last mailbag question. This comes from Instagram from Jacob. He says, where would you rank Logan Evans' goggles on a top 5 Mariners accessories list of all time?
Shout out to Jacob, because this is arguably the most I've ever had to think about a mailbag question. I'm trying to think, what accessories in Mariners history? So the first thing I went to was goggles. So Logan's got his glasses. Hyphen wore glasses, Ryan Rowland-Smith. There's some other ones, too, that I wrote down. Let me know what you think. None of these are in order, by the way. We can do a top, 3, because I don't know if I can list 5. John Olerud's helmet that he wore when he played on defense, I consider that an accessory. Logan Gilbert's bag of toys. And then a couple of suggestions from Jacob, who once he asked this question, I'm like, all right, I'm blanking. I need some help here. He suggested Ken Griffey Jr.'s backwards cap as an accessory. He also said Ichiro's sunglasses, said they were classic.
The couple others I wrote down, those were all good, were Fernando Rodney's hat. Not that it was some unique hat, but the turning it to 10 o'clock was pretty unique. And then I also wrote in current time with this 2025 roster, Randy Arozarena's chain. I don't know what he spent on that. I can't imagine it was cheap, because that chain is big, it's flashy, and it looks like it would cost somebody a pretty penny. So yeah, that's going to be an accessory.
What do we think is the top 3? I'll put Junior's backwards cap on there.
Well, that has to be 1.
Yeah, that's number 1. What else would we put on that? I feel like we got to... should we double up on hats? I kind of want to put Fernando Rodney on there.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that was a classic. That was half of what he was known for. I don't think Ichiro's sunglasses qualifies for this. Or not that it doesn't qualify. I don't think it makes the list. Not that Ichiro himself is not iconic. I just don't really reminisce on Ichiro wearing sunglasses the way that everybody wears their hat backwards now because of Ken Griffey Jr.
How about John Olerud's helmet?
That's actually what I was going to put at 3. That was pretty iconic. He played for an elite team, really good career, and not many people wear helmets out in the field unless you're Kike Hernandez pitching when you're winning. Yeah. So, sure, I'll put Olerud at 3.
All right. So Griffey 1, Rodney 2, Olerud 3. That's our list.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I like it.
Good question. Thank you, Jacob. Thanks for that question.
That was good. That was really good.
All right, Lyle, let's wrap up with 2 of our favorite segments on the week. Let's start off by going down on the farm. Who is your standout Mariners minor leaguer of the week?
Shout out Johnny Farmello. Welcome back, first of all. To see him get back from that ACL injury in less than a year and back to playing center field and back in the lineup this week for the Aqua Sox, awesome. Seriously awesome. But what he's done in his first 2 games at the time of recording this, well, he hit a home run in his first game back. So talk about a welcome back moment. That was awesome. What's up?
It was a tank.
No, it was a tank. Yeah, he crushed that. They're down in Eugene right now, the Aqua Sox, and that ball was demolished. So he goes 1 for 4 in his first game back with that home run. And then on Wednesday, 2 for 5 with a double. I got to tell you, Colt Emerson is the top prospect in the Mariners system, and Celestine's probably right behind him with his upside potentially being greater. This is not me just going off a 2-game sample. This is me listening to people like Jeff Passan and listening to people like Keith Law and others. When Johnny Farmello is healthy and at his best, I don't think the gap is that big in terms of the Mariners' top prospect between Colt, between Feldman, and between Johnny Farmello. To get that guy back is a big deal. I can't wait to see what he does.
And to think where he would be if he didn't get hurt. We could play the what-if game all season long. But the most important thing is that Johnny is back and that he's feeling good. And just a reminder from what Hollander said, he's going to be part-time for a while as they're going to try and ramp him up. It's going to be 4 days a week. Then it's going to be 5 days a week. Then it'll eventually be 6 days a week when he's fully healthy and they fully trust him. They'll put him at DH. They're going to try and keep Johnny Farmello as healthy as they possibly can to get him back to the best version of himself. I'm so happy for Johnny to be back. So exciting to watch him play because he is, I mean, he's a bunch of fun. He would have been in Double-A this year if he didn't get hurt, which is, a bummer for him, but we're glad he's back. Another guy we're happy to have back. Oh,
I feel like he still could get to Double-A this year. I don't know.
Yeah, he could. I think they're more concerned of his health over his affiliate progression, but you never know. We'll see.
Is it 4 days a week total for him starting out, or is it 4 days and a DH?
4 days total.
So it's 3 days and a DH to start out. Because Hollander did say they're going to mix in a lot of DH days for him.
Yeah, I mean, it could be 2 DH days, 2 days in center, depending on how they feel. Mm-hmm. So maybe that might be how they start it. So we'll see. Another guy we're hyped to have back, my guy for On the Farm, is Mr. Michael Morales. He got injured in spring training. Do you remember what the injury was specifically?
Well, it wasn't in spring training, funny enough, he got injured. It was all the way back at high performance camp, I believe, and it was...
Oh, right. Yeah. So we saw him at spring training, and he was not throwing at that point. He thought... Yeah, he was optimistic about his timeline, but it turned out that he wasn't going to be able to come back now until May 1st, where he makes his debut today, recording here on Thursday, May 1st. He goes 3 shutout innings. He strikes out 2. He walks 2, allows 2 hits. Great to have him back. Mariners co-minor league pitcher of the year last year. We talked about pitching depth in the organization. Mikey's on that next group. Perhaps not like big leagues, but in terms of the depth guys, that's where he is right about now. So it's good to see him. It's good to see him back and pitching for Double-A.
Had he not been injured, he might be even on a shorter list of call-ups than what you're describing. Because again, they just don't have a lot of remaining arms close to the big leagues right now that would be ready for a call-up. Now, if Morales had started healthy, maybe he's a little closer. Regardless, though, I mean, that's kind of a different talking point. The fact that he's back and the fact that he's on the mound and the fact that he went 3 innings today and 3 innings of good work down in Double-A, awesome. Thrilled for Michael Morales. Great to see him back.
I also want to give a shout out as the Mariners announced their minor league players of the month. Tyler Locklear and Laz Montes won hitters of the month. Our guy Logan won pitcher of the month. Michael Hobbs won reliever of the month. Victor Labrada won a new award, the base runner of the month. And Austin St. Laurent won the defensive player of the month.
Dude, have you seen Michael Hobbs' mustache?
No, I haven't. Should I see it?
It's Raleigh fingers. No joke.
Hobbs, Mariners. Let's see this.
Raleigh fingers.
On reference? Oh, it is!
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah, we need to meet this dude. Where's he pitching? Oh, he's in Arkansas.
Double-A.
Okay, well, do you want to go to Arkansas?
That's a long trip.
Yeah, it is a long trip. The mustache might be worth it.
Well, maybe he'll just be in the big leagues at some point this year. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, shout out to him for a good first month for him down with the Travs.
Yeah.
Lyle, let's close it out and go to our Russell Wilson Umpire of the Week. We have a first. We have a back-to-back positive Russell Wilson Umpire of the Week because we have our second umpire perfect game of the season, third ever. It's Nick Lentz in yesterday's Royals-Rays game. He was 100% perfect, Lyle. Let's give it up. Gave it for the last one. We give it to everyone. We don't miss. When they do something positive, we acknowledge it.
Rarely, but yes.
Well, yeah, umpire perfect game's more rare than a batter perfect game or a pitcher perfect game.
I just mean even if an umpire has a good game behind the plate and it's not a perfect game, we don't usually acknowledge it because what's the fun in that?
You're right. Okay, sorry. We'll be negative next week.
Good.
Hold me to that. Even if there's a perfect game by another umpire next week, we will be negative again. Someone please get tossed. Oh, it's perfect. It's lining. The stars are aligning. Ryan Divish gets thrown out, and that umpire gets the segment.
No.
Yes. We'll text. We'll check in with Divish and see if he can get himself tossed this week for this segment.
For content purposes, yeah.
Yeah, for content purposes.
He'll
understand.
It's like the Kent Murphy video where he actually fills in and coaches in a select baseball game in one of his videos, and after about 4 innings, he's just had it. He's had it with everything, and somebody asked him, "Hey, Kent, you going back out to coach first base?" "No, I'm going to get myself kicked out of this game." It's like, that's going to be Divish.
Yeah. Well, I could see that. Yeah. Goes and then drinks a few Crown Apples.
I will say, while we didn't get to him and we're highlighting a positive umpire this week, I did see some CB Buckner discourse here on Thursday again of him just having another atrocious game. Shocker.
Wow. Shocker. Well, at least he's consistent.
He's the most consistent of consistent. He's just consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it.
The worst balls and strikes caller to ever do it, legitimately. So,
chills.
Yeah.
Put him in the Hall of Fame.
In what wing?
Well, it's a museum, isn't it?
You got to remember history.
History. Yeah. It's history, isn't it?
It is history.
Yeah. Well, there you go. My case is made.
Well, if they make a PED wing one day, maybe they can make a wing within that wing and saying the worst umpires to ever do it.
Angel Hernandez, CB Buckner, Laz Diaz. That should be a fun group.
Yeah, the problem is we don't have enough information in the old days to know who the bad umpires back then were. Otherwise, they could be in there.
Oh, we could do the guy who, which playoff game was it? It's famous. The Marlins game. Remember?
The home run that Derek Jeter hit where the fan reached into the stands and...
No, not that one. It's a Marlins home playoff game. I think El Duque was pitching, and he was constantly throwing it like a foot off the plate, and the dude behind the plate is like, "You're out!" If you look it up on Twitter or on YouTube, I'm sure you could find it. Like, Marlins playoff game, bad umpire.
All right.
It's like, it's bad. I mean, I'm serious. Whoever was catching, I forget who was catching, would line up in the other batter's box. Boom. Strike 3.
At least they're held accountable.
Yeah, well. Yeah, technically.
Mm-hmm. What a group. All right. That just about wraps up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. If you want to stay on top of all of our stuff, you can do so wherever you want to consume our content. But if you want one spot for it all, it's all over on our website, you guys. MarineLayerPod.com. You can watch our episodes. You can listen to our episodes. You can rate and review. If you want to sign up for our Patreon, which, again, we really encourage you to, we love to have you guys get more involved. That's over at our website, too, if you want to go sign up. If you want to get our merch, which go get your merch. It's out rolling. It's been rolling for a few weeks now. It's awesome. That's over on our website. So everything to keep on top of all of our stuff is over at MarineLayerPod.com. You can also find us everywhere across social media at MarineLayerPod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.